How to create a spiral design like this in Affinity Photo. It's a pattern design you can set to any size for PC and Mac. Go to the Tools panel and select the Spiral tool. For this you'll need 2.5, Affinity Photo 2.5. The Spiral tool is available there. With that, simply drag and create your first spiral. By default, it'll be 5 turns. You can modify that. Just go along here and you've got lots of different settings. Also, go for here. Go for the square option. So you get a square. Now this design isn't what I want because it's slightly angled and it could be used to create a pattern design. So when you actually do it, when you create this spiral, what you need to do is first hold down the Shift key to make certain it ends up in the way that you want it. So now click there, and that exactly is what I want that sort of design. Or what you can do, you can now go over here and you can increase the number of turns. You can also run through various options here, maybe go for a semicircular option there or counter semicircular, which is slightly odd when it's actually a square. Maybe the name should change, but they haven't done that. With that, you can see there's a slight issue here and you can resolve that. Okay, I'm just going to resize just slightly. I still want it to be aligned in this way, but you can see now I've got there and I've got there, and that will create a slightly unusual looking spiral if you turn it into a pattern. So you just go over here and select the rectangle tool. Now just drag over here, just a rectangle, hold down the Shift and create that. And well, now you can just align it, you sort of drag over there and just align it like that. And well, once you've done that, you can then drag it into there. So just simply drag it in. And now you'll notice what's happened. You haven't got that sort of edge going over there. Now, if you haven't got it exactly right, you can always resize it. So you can just go here and you can manipulate this. You can just resize it, just tweak it a bit, and you can see as you drag that, you'll get more or less. Just depends exactly how you want it. But I just want it so there's no sort of weird edge to it. So with that, I can now convert it into a different design. I'm going to create it into a pixel. But you're probably thinking, well, how do I get that gradient? Well, I should do that. First, show you here. Simply select the spiral. And with that selected, you can go to the gradient tool. And you can do this with any sort of line designs or, of course, a fill design. This is a stroke-based design. It's not, obviously, a fill. So what you can do, with that selected, go to the gradient tool and make sure you go up here. Context, fill, and set it to stroke. Don't go with the fill one, because if you don't go with that, it will make no difference. But here, you can now modify this. So you can just change it. So you might decide, you know what, you want that. Or you want it straight across. But this time it will change the stroke. And you could, of course, go with elliptical, etc. But I've just gone with linear. So with this design now, I can convert it into a pixel layer. It needs to be a pixel layer to be turned into a pattern. So I can go over here and layer and down to rasterize. You can also right click as well. That's another option. I always go for the layer menu, and now I've got that. Well, you can resize it a bit, but now it's not vector. It will degrade a bit if you resize it from this point. So it's best to have it the size you want right at the start. So with this, I can now apply some effects as well. Go down here, click effects. Click effects and maybe go for an outer shadow. You can modify those settings, just tweak those. And also go for 3D. And you get a lovely three-dimensional depth there to your design. Now, it's not the greatest of 3D depths, but it does give a bit of a depth to it. And click close. Well, it's a pixel layer, but I'm just going to rasterize it again. I'm just going to go down there, rasterize, and the reason is then it's all combined into one. The effect as well as the actual pixel layer. Then go to layer and new pattern layer from selection. And now you can see your design there. Let's just remove the other one, so just delete it. And now you can see that. If you hadn't cut it, if you hadn't cropped it in a particular way, you would have seen a bit of a gap between them. I mean, you might be happy with that, but I like to have this sort of makes it. It's basically about the same. There's a slight difference, but it's very subtle between those lines. And then, of course, what you do, you can rotate it, move it around, and also, if you want, you can apply effects and much, much more. But also what you can do, you can always resize that. You can see as you do that, obviously it's going to get slightly smaller and smaller, the gap. But you can also rasterize the whole thing. So you can always go to Layer and Rasterize, and also go to Filters and maybe apply various filters. So something like Distort, Deform, Mirror, all these can be used to create some really interesting spiral effects. Real good one will be Displace. So what I'm going to do, just going to duplicate this layer. So duplicate this layer, simply go over here, you can right click and duplicate. So right click and duplicate, you've got two now. With that, select this one, go to Filters and go down to Distort and Displace. And then with that, you can go here, load map from layers beneath, and you can see you can create some really interesting and unusual designs simply doing that to create very, well, odd spiral pattern design, and click Apply. That's one option. Another option, let's just remove that one again. You can always go to Filters and Distort and Deform. Now, if I hadn't rasterized the whole thing and only just used the Deform with the pattern layer, the effect would be very different. It does create some interesting effects as well, but I'm going to go with this, and I'm just going to add some pins, add a few, just to see. You can distort it to create some really interesting sort of weird and wonderful line effects with that design as well. And I'm just going to drag that to there. And you can see, obviously, it's not really a spiral pattern anymore, but you've still got a brilliant line effect with it. Or undo, maybe go to Filters and Distort and Mirror. With that, you can see now you get the mirror effect, a number of mirrors, and you can increase that, and you can see then you've still got that spiral, and you can still drag this up, but it creates a great, intense, lots of different line designs can be created using this approach. And then simply change input, move that to get maybe a square design like that from your spiral, and then click Apply. Or, of course, increase the number of mirrors, maybe go for 6 to create a star design. Maybe just change it slightly. Great for maybe Christmas designs. And click Apply. So literally thousands of different designs can be created from that. Well, once you've got your design, what you can do, you can always save it to your assets so you can use it in future projects. Go to Window and Assets. You can see there I've got Assets. With that, simply go to a category, maybe Andrew's Patterns or whatever you want to have. Go to the right side menu and Add from Selection. And that will add that design over here. And then you can use it in future projects. If you want to export it, simply go to File and Export. Save it to JPEG, etc. Or go to Save As. Or you can, of course, copy it and paste it into applications such as Photoshop and others. If you decide you want to recolor it, all you need to do is go to Layer and down to New Adjustment Layer. Maybe go down here and select Black and White to turn it into a black and white design like that to create great textures, maybe. And you can, of course, modify the reds, yellows, etc. to create different designs from that. And if you want, simply merge it together so it's all merged into a single design. Or undo again. Let's just remove that and then go to Layer and New Adjustment Layer. Maybe recolor it into a single colour. So recolor, and you can get there a lovely red design, or maybe green, and then merge that as well. You can also modify the design using Layer and go down here to New Layer Filter and go to Blur or Gaussian Blur or Distort and maybe Twirl. So select that, and then you can modify the design. Simply just drag there, change the angle, move that origin point, radius, and to create a different design from your thing. And while you've got that, you can still come back and modify it at any point. So you can always go over here, simply expand this out and modify that twirl. And of course, other effects could be added to the design as well.